Episode 2. In Mistake Shacks episode 1 and 2, I mentioned I needed a new handle for my mallet. Today, we're going to make that handle. The head part of the old handle was stuck in the mallet, so I had to somehow drive that out, and it seemed like the easiest way was just to use the broken off part of the handle, because I know that fits through. It was a very clean break. You can hardly even tell it was broken when I do this. I better not leave it like that, otherwise I'll forget. Conveniently, however, it makes a perfect template for the new handle. I'll mark out the shape and then go ahead and mark the shoulders where the head sits on the handle. Freehand in the curve at the end, since it's simple. Now we'll start to rough out the shape. Saw as much as we can, and then use maybe some rasps or some chisels to finalize the form. The cuts I'm making right now are stopping cuts at the lowest point of the shoulder. This way I can cut or split without worrying so much about losing an important part of the shape later. They say you should never ever hammer on anything in your vise. Well, it's my vise. I'll do what I want to. This big beetle I'm using is just not the right tool for the job. I'm going to be so happy to have my mallet fixed. I'm working across the grain here to keep from splitting out too much. The grain's not really going in a very advantageous direction. For my leg vise, I use just a wedge of wood down against the floor at the leg to set my spacing. Maybe not the most elegant, but it's very durable. I've got a reasonable chunk of wood to remove here, so I'm going to saw it off and then use my finer tools to refine it. This piece of oak is not really stable at that length, so I'm going to have to move it bit by bit as I cut so it doesn't wobble around or even break off. Ooh, look how shiny that saw blade is. As you can see, I've developed a new motion tracking gimbal. It allows me to do these panning shots, which are pretty exciting. This is an example of that not so elegant thing I was mentioning. Slowly pan to the left, away from the action. Yep, show the chunk on the bench. Good, excellent. Let's get the principal completely out of shot. Yeah, perfect. Keep panning, and scene. Nice work, everybody. I am a cinematic genius. All right, let's try this again on the other side. That's it. Keep panning. Keep panning. No, wait. That didn't work very well last time. Oh, what the heck. Just go with it. With this much length sticking out of the vise, you do get a lot of vibration. What I'm doing with my left hand there is I'm just bracing that. I'm basically taking up the slack so that as I push the saw through, the tensions don't cause the raw material to jump back and forth and make the cuts harder. That takes care of the rough stock removal. Now for some refinement. That big beetle is heavy and it is hard to use for that work. I'd prefer a plane here, but since I'm working down into a V, a little valley, it's just really not going to work, so chisel it is. Since I'm starting to get close to my layout lines, I'm getting to check more and more often to make sure I don't go past them. I know it looks terrifying seeing that chisel flying around, but watch the hands, always behind the point, and the point's never towards me. That being said, I wouldn't want to work next to me. Finally, a little bit of plane use. With this little block plane, I add a skew, I can get in there and work the handle up a little bit. It saves me some effort and gives me a much smoother product. But it doesn't get much done on this piece. Down in this valley, it's just a matter of going back and forth from one side and the other with the chisel, trying to get all of the tear out and all of the dead cuts taken care of. The second verse is the same as the first. Let's go ahead and skip to the next part. I've got pretty close to the shape that I want for the handle now. The next item of business is to get it to fit through the head. When I made the head, I just made it so that 3/4 inch wood would fit through there, giving me an easy to make handle. Today I don't actually have any 3/4 inch oak, it's all 5/4 up in my loft, so I'm using 5/4. That means I have to shave it down. This is a perfect job for this little scrub plane. The iron in this plane is highly cambered, maybe a little bit more than typical. It gives me really scalloped surfaces, but I kind of like that underneath tabletops, bottoms of drawers, hidden places. It gives you something interesting to feel with your hands. I'm stopping frequently as I work to test the thickness against the head of my handle. I certainly don't want to overdo this. I'm going to sneak up on it if at all possible. just about there. It's starting to fit in just a little bit. Groovy. The gross removal is done. Now it's time to just dial it in. I've noticed as far as the handle will go here, and now I'm going to start working from there up. The bottom fits, so I'm not going to mess with that anymore. I'll use these short abbreviated plane strokes to take off some from the middle without affecting the end. As we're fitting here, there's a number of different ways it can bind up. It can be too thick, it can be too wide down at the narrow end of the handle, and it can be the wrong angle up at the flare in the head, the dovetail part of the head. Oh crap. I'll just edit that out. It's getting difficult to see where this piece is binding up, so right now I'm checking the handle for burnishing spots, places where it's rubbing on the head and the inside. That way I'll know which parts are high. Momentum. Isn't physics fun? Hey, where are you going? We're over here. You can't just leave. We're not done yet. Oh, hi. Okay. So now the binding is happening at the angle, I guess, of this thing, or the valley where the head starts to swell out. It's a little too wide at the lowest part, and the chisel is the easiest way, quickest way anyway, to take that down. Here we can see that the top edge is nice and well fitted, while the bottom is a little bit gappy. I'd like my mallet to be well balanced and symmetrical, so I'm also checking to make sure that these angles are equal. As you get closer to the end, it gets harder and harder to decide when you're done. Chasing perfection. It's the 80-20 rule in perfect example. It's also difficult to maintain the discipline to be patient and work at this and work at it and work at it and not just call it good enough. At this point, everything's basically fitting, but what I've noticed is that this side isn't quite square. And so one corner is filling out the handle slot. The other corner is a gap. And finally, we've got it. Nice and tight, all the gaps are filled, everything looks good, except that handle is ugly and uncomfortable. I've taken a few minutes to take the handle over to the belt sander and use that to soften the edges, take out some of the high spots and rough spots, and round over the end. I hang my mallet from a hook in the window for easy access. So now it's time to transfer the little piece of leather I used to hang it. First, I'll just untie this little knot here. Yep, just a simple little knot. Shouldn't take much. I'll just... Yeah, this awl. I'll just use this awl. Yeah, there. Just that easy. No problem at all. Good God, how does this thing work? Haha, yeah, okay. Now, we'll just put it over here on this one. Okay, the rabbit goes through the hole, over the tree, makes lunch, gets on the bus to Poughkeepsie, then it... Wait, no, this rabbit goes through the hole and it falls, it trips on the first rabbit. It went, what the... Well, if nothing else, the rabbits should at least have the same length of ears. There's no way it's worth the time, but I do really like the way this little double wrap sort of thingy looks, so I struggle through it. And finally, the little overhand in the end, and we're done. That took way longer than it should have. But there you go. Now you can hang it up. Yay! For shop tools, I love simple oil finishes. Just put some on a rag, rub it on, let it dry, and use the tool. They get dirty, they get grimy, they get beat up. There's no reason to make them shiny or polished. At least that's what I think. Hey, Milk Paint, by the way, if you're watching, sponsorship opportunities. Just saying. That's all. And now, one of the most satisfying parts of the job, smacking it with a hammer. No, I mean putting my mark on it. And that's it. That's the end of this Make Shack episode. Brand new handle for my mallet, which means I can stop using that horrible other thing. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you'll join me again next time. You know the drill. Like or subscribe.